Thank you, Phil. And yeah, as Phil said, very warm welcome. Thanks for making the effort to join us on a Monday evening. As Phil said, I'm Ed. I head up the entertainment and news operations here at TikTok in the UK. What that means in practice is my team look after some of the biggest, most important accounts on the platform. So media groups, TikTok creators, and celebrities or public figures. And we do that to kind of encourage them and to help them to create and share as much high quality content on the platform for our users to enjoy as possible. But we also work with them on maybe more kind of bespoke projects, particularly around entertainment and around new show or movie releases. So just before we introduce our panel, I just wanted to kind of introduce some of these examples, which hopefully will give you kind of some inspiration if there are like titles that you're thinking about and want to work on yourself. And feel free to grab me or any of the team afterwards, and we can talk about how we can help with that. Okay, so just got a few examples here. So if you work from left to right, the first kind of project or partnership that I wanted to touch on was a show that we worked on with Netflix earlier this year. This was for the show You. We helped Netflix to stream an exclusive live Q&A from the BAFTA building with members of the cast, including Penn Badgley. The live stream was also hosted by TikTok creator Miss Rita B, and that live stream drove over 75,000 unique viewers. So for those users who are maybe coming onto the platform to watch short videos, they were then served this live stream, and we're hoping that that kind of reminded them that the new series of You was available on Netflix, and they could start that next journey. The next example is the in-app experience that we built for Eurovision. Shout out to Yaz and to Katie, who are joining us today, who worked very hard on this. This year, TikTok returned as the official entertainment provider, whilst the BBC, of course, were the host broadcaster. We work closely with the BBC across their short video and live content output, as well as supporting some of their key talent on the ground in Liverpool. And we did this to help them promote their owned and operated coverage. The next example is just a short video, actually, from Florence Hunt, who plays Hyacinth in Bridgerton. She convinced her on-screen family to join in this behind-the-scenes video, which went viral when the latest series dropped earlier this year. You may have seen this video before because it's been incredibly popular in the platform and has now seen over 50 million video views. And finally, we have the red carpet live stream that we worked on with BAFTA at this year's Television Awards. These red carpet live formats have become increasingly popular with our users in the UK and around the world. And we've also started to see major movie studios lean into them for titles such as Barbie and Black Panther. So as I said before, if you do have questions about how we kind of help to make these projects and these partnerships happen, feel free to grab us afterwards. Okay, so now we've had some context as to where TikTok is at with entertainment in the UK. I'm going to introduce our amazing panel. So, where are we? Okay, so first we have Rebecca Dowell. Rebecca is a talent manager in the entertainment division for global management company YMU Group. Over the last 6 years, Rebecca has worked with some of the UK's leading creators to develop powerhouse personal brands that sit at the intersection of entertainment, music, and youth culture. Welcome, Rebecca. Next, we have Greg James. Greg is an award-winning broadcaster, best known for hosting the BBC Radio 1 Breakfast Show, the Tailenders Cricket Podcast, the Fast and the Curious Formula 1 podcast, and for creating the Kid Normal book series. Greg is a regular on TV screens too, appearing on Gogglebox, Taskmaster, and recently presenting Channel 4's new game show, Rise and Fall. Greg was actually an early adopter of TikTok and uses TikTok to promote his many projects, which we're excited to hear about this evening. Welcome, Greg. Where's he going? Oh, there he is. Okay, next we have Natalie Lydon. Nat is a creator manager here at TikTok within the entertainment team and has helped develop some of our most recognized creators during her 3 years here. Nat works with TikTok talent to secure them opportunities on major TV and movie studios, and Nat also co-leads our TikTok UK Creator Council, so welcome, Nat. Next, we have Munya Chawawa. Munya is one of my favorite digital creators, and Munya burst onto the scene thanks to his satirical humor, reactive commentary, and roster of original personalities. Having established his online presence, he has started to make a name for himself on national television and on streaming platforms, both in front of and behind the camera. Munya has appeared on BBC One's Celebrity MasterChef, Sky One's Dating No Filter, written and presented Channel 4's Complaints Welcome, and hosted the prestigious Mobo Awards. We're delighted to have him here with us this evening to speak on his journey and how he's harnessed TikTok and social media more generally to open up opportunities on screen. Welcome, Munya. And last but not least, we've got Rosie Gee. Rosie sits alongside Natalie in our entertainment team, working with top UK public figures like Greg, but also Anton Deck, Stanley Tucci, and Louis Theroux on their account strategy, really advising them on how to best promote their priority projects, including new TV and film releases. So welcome, Rosie. Okay, fab. Munya, I want to start with you, if that's okay. I'm sure lots of people... Oh, are we all on?
Is this on?
Oh, yeah, fab.
Yo.
So I'm sure lots of people are really familiar. They've seen your videos online. But maybe if we could think back to when you first started using TikTok, when did you first become aware of the platform, and what was that kind of early part of your journey like?
Yeah, so, I mean, my entire journey with social media came from sort of a frustration of not being able to, to break into TV. I wanted to be a presenter at the time. That was my ambition. And there's a story I always tell, which is, I was so desperate for an agent and so desperate to get into TV. I would email TV agents saying that I was Idris Elba's son, which obviously you can't verify until you see the person. And I'd turn up there and, they'd say to me, look, if you had 30,000 followers, maybe we would talk to you. We like your showreel, but you've got no profile. You're a no one. Now, with that information, I couldn't then go to a TV channel and say, please let me be a presenter so I can show these people. And so, social media and TikTok were ways in which I could create the content I would have made if I were to be given the platform. And from there, I just started to sort of refine some of the ideas that I'd had. It was sort of like a classic TV formula. If you see what works, continue to refine that and crystallize that into something. And then, I never looked back from there. And Idris Elba is my dad.
Okay, fab. And was there a period at the start where you were like not sure about TikTok, or were you always like, yeah, this is the platform for me?
To be honest with you, I think I had quite good compatibility with TikTok because I could spot very early on that people's declining attention spans, which I know there's that conversation happening now in TV, and that's why there's a shift to digital. But for me personally, wanting to kind of convey that I could do comedy as quickly as possible, a platform like TikTok where it is these quick bursts of entertainment was great. I set a goal. I was like, right, most videos have one punchline at the end. So my rule is I'm going to try and have 11 punchlines in 60 seconds. So, at least every 3 seconds is terrible maths, but at least every 3 seconds I want people to be laughing. And TikTok is a platform that I think rewards that. Even now, if you watch my stuff, I'll always try and do something in the first 3 seconds. And in the instance of Nigella, when I do that character who's a lot more measured, I just make sure most of my stomach's on show.
Love that. Okay, and you talked about the early part of your journey. I think last year you won Presenter of the Year at the Royal Television Society Awards for Race Around Britain, so congrats. You've obviously come a long way and you've made progress in, let's say, the TV industry. How come you're still so committed to like creating video online?
Well, online is a powerful engine in terms of putting you in front of people like yourselves, commissioners, producers, all of these kind of things. So that for me is kind of like an engine between big projects that just lets people know I'm still out there. And I do think that obviously there's this now almost like a pressure to flurry, to rush over to social media and go, well, we'll grab all the presenters from here then. I think that there's a midway point where what you're really looking for is the spark of, of something, the spark of talent, of a presenter, of a producer, or whatever, but also somebody who's kind of dedicated themselves to the craft. And what you're going to find on TikTok, I think, is a mixture of people. You're going to find people who have accidentally stumbled onto something amazing, which is going viral and is drawing loads of traction, but hasn't quite worked out what it is yet. That was me at the start when I was doing videos. And then you're going to find people who they have a character or a formula or a format which they know works. And these are the people you can trust with, the programs or the presenter roles and stuff. So I guess it's like a happy medium of, because what TV allows us and what the process of TV does is usually it nurtures talent from, say, the runner, the researcher, the AP, the producer. Maybe they then shift into presenting, but they have an understanding of what to do in the wider production. Effectively, that's what you want. You want to bring someone on board to a show or whatever, and for that person to almost be producing in their minds and to be editing and to be almost producing as they go. So yeah, you're looking for raw talent, but also people who still have a dedication to the craft of making good TV.
Got it. And Rebecca, from the kind of the talent side, is what Munya said, about the metrics, 30,000 followers. Is that something that you guys think about, or are you more focused on watching those videos and thinking, is this making me laugh? Like, is this engaging?
Is that on? Yes. Okay. I don't usually hold the mic, so glad that's working. I think when we're looking for new talent, there's a few different things that we look for. Usually I'm looking for a unique tone of voice and a creative USP, and that would be most important to me rather than their followers or their engagement. But I think for them to be suitable for representation, they would need to be at a certain level. So I think actually the 30K and above reference is quite a good sort of starting point in terms of you've obviously found a bit of traction with an audience, you're starting to build your audience, and you're probably understanding what works and what doesn't. And that provides a good foundation for me to then come in. And essentially my job then is to wrap the right team around them and understand what their strengths and weaknesses are to then help them build the creative.
Got it. And is TikTok somewhere that you're kind of looking at to try and discover like new talent pipeline?
Yes, definitely. I think because on TikTok you can experiment creatively, I see the platform, you can obviously build an audience on there and use it as a tool for entertainment, but it also becomes a portfolio. And instead of a show reel, I think now talent can use it to build out their portfolio of creative, test what works and test what doesn't work, and then obviously apply that into the more traditional broadcast environments.
Yeah. And Greg, is that something you're kind of thinking about, like my TikTok presence, this is what other casting agents are going to look at as well?
A bit. Actually, what Munya was saying about it being a place where you produce stuff and having a producer brain is something that I very luckily learned when I started doing radio stuff, because you're on your own. You have to find the funny bit. You have to make it short as possible. You have to, like, who am I? How do I say this? Why do I find that funny? So I was lucky that I had that sort of training and arrived at Radio 1 at a time when I was 21 when I started at Radio 1, and no one was really doing much video stuff at all, but I really loved doing it. I always sort of grew up with a camcorder, around, and just liked making videos and stuff and editing stuff myself. So it really helped when I got to Radio 1 to go, actually, I'm just going to do some video stuff because I want this show to live beyond its early start. Because I did the 4 a.m. till 6:30 in the morning show, so most people don't hear your stuff. So there was a concerted effort with me and the producer to go, how do we make this show live throughout the whole day? And actually that's what Munya was saying, which is you're always around. And like, even if you're not tuned in that moment, you're like, oh, that guy, yeah, I've seen that guy do a thing. I might listen. Yeah,
because you can watch TikTok videos any time of day, right? So
yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
And yes,
as we all probably
do.
know. Yeah.
Yes, we all do.
Fab. And maybe Nat, just interested to hear kind of from your perspective, looking at TikTok creators who have maybe like made that jump, like Munya. What do you feel like gives them the kind of the edge, to be able to go and move into kind of more traditional TV, or whether it's radio, that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think just you make great content to start with, so that really helps. But what really helps as well is, as you mentioned, being a all-rounded sort of creator that can do multiple things. Also looking at their audiences. I think a lot of the creators we worked with are really relatable or really have a resonance with their audience, and that really is interesting when people are looking for like actors, writers, really tapping into that audience and seeing how they can use that demographic and really seeing how they can expand their audience with the TikTok audience. So it's a different approach to really looking at people on the platform.
I was just going to say on that also we really enjoy doing it. I think I started at Radio 1 and I thought I love making just stuff. And so I'm not on the radio doing it. I really like finding out, how do you do a good Instagram? How do you do a good TikTok? Let me learn about this thing. I think you can't really pretend, and you can see who pretends to like it and like, I better put a TikTok out. But actually, I just really like finding a way of making a new thing. And I think that's sort of what radio and TV has had to do, is go, okay, we need to try and keep up with this, because it's actually a very creative way of coming up with things very quickly.
Yeah, I think, Munya, you kind of mentioned that at the start when TikTok came around. You were like, okay, another platform, I've got to try and figure this out. Was that kind of like an enjoyable challenge for you, Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy any sort of coming up with a thing. And yeah, TikTok was like, okay, let's get I mean, I was a big Musical.ly fan and was doing lip syncs. But, and then I thought, well, how can the show benefit from this? How can this benefit from the show? And again, it's like the bits from the show can live somewhere else, and they can actually fuel the show with generated content from listeners or viewers who are going, how about this? I can put an unpopular opinion on, and then you get 1,000 more unpopular opinions to use then on the radio. So it does work that way, because that is where the listeners are, as well as listening to you. They are also on their phone endlessly. So you've got to be where the audience is. And it just felt, it would have been ridiculous if I'd have gone, we're not doing TikTok, I don't understand it. Well, then you get off the radio then, because actually you're not keeping up with the world. It doesn't make the radio show any worse. It benefits from it. And
your account, for people maybe who haven't been on Greg's TikTok, is a kind of nice mix of kind of your life, but also like some of that content from the radio show, right? Yeah, because there's always fun stuff that happens in the real world, and whether it's I bump into Greg Wallace in the street or whatever it might be, there's always funny things. So you've just got to always be on, haven't you? You've got to be like, oh, that could be a fun bit. Oh, that's interesting. So it's a sort of mess. I mean, part of me wishes that I had a thing that I just did on TikTok, but that's not how I am, and that's not what the radio show is like. So it needs to be a sort of beautiful mess of everything. Yeah, fab. And maybe Nat, just going back to kind of that creator piece, can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you're actually doing with the BBC around, Creator Lab and like helping creators to develop and try and move into like mainstream media?
Yeah, definitely. So part of our job is to find those like new voices on the platform and really tap into finding opportunities for them outside of the app to really level up their performance and hopefully get them on TV, radio, film. And to do that, we've partnered with the BBC on the Creator Lab, which is an initiative that actually our colleague Fred has been running, and I'm just jumping on from a creator's perspective. But it's a really cool one where we're going to invite creators that want to get into media, TV or film to do some discussion talks and development programs with the BBC all around building the tools for online presence, but also around media and how to get the tools to build their career development within that field. So it's a really interesting one. We'll do like sessions in person, and it's for the whole of the UK. So England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, we're doing them all in person to really showcase some of the tools that they can use through like meeting people on screen, in person, or even working with program commissioners to see what they want to get from the platform and what they want to get from writers or filmmakers from their TikToks, but also outside in like a business room setting. So it's a really interesting one.
And Nat, do you ever find when you're talking to creators, some of them will say, I'm not interested in TV, I'm not interested in radio, like I just want to focus on digital, or is it kind of a bit of a mix?
I think it can be a mix. They all want to do a bit more than just a 30-second or 1 minute plus video. They do want to think about what their career development is with the platform, not just, I'm just going to stay in one space my whole life. They want to see what they can do with the audience that they've built and really make a brand for themselves. So if it's not TV, maybe it could be fashion. But what we're seeing a lot on our side is presenting, because these big people have big personalities and their audience really resonate with them. So that's really a field that we're seeing resonate a lot with them. But even acting and writing, we have a lot of filmmakers on the platform that are really using it, as you said, like showing their portfolio and show reels. It's really interesting for them to share it to an audience. And then it's great for you guys so you can see how the audience are reacting to it as well.
I think, like a big opportunity to kind of, to jump on the integration of digital stuff. Because oftentimes this is like mutual, I think it's called Schadenfreude, where you wish bad upon someone else or you take delight in something else failing. And there's this mutual thing where it's like digital's going, well, TV never gave me the shot, so I don't want to do TV. And TV's going, well, digital's taken over all these hours of production we're putting in, so I don't want to work with digital. And it's kind of like, how do you bridge that gap? So when I was an aspiring presenter, I would have loved for, someone from a production company to be like, come in, do a screen test. All right, cool. That was good. This wasn't so good. But actually come back again. We'll work on that, whatnot. I know that there's tight schedules and you can't afford to, often nurture talent through. But I think that is how you make the difference, and you kind of integrate digital talent in a way that then becomes useful in the context of TV. If someone's got that spark and you think, we could nurture this person, we could be the indie production company that aligns with this person, they take over our docs, they do our short form, whatnot, that person's going to thank you for it. I feel like if we don't do that, we're basically allowing this plethora of new digital talent to go off without the skills that we could actually hone for TV, because we're not willing to put in the time to just go, cool, if that's what the new gen of TV is going to be like, let's meet them with where they're at and let's nurture that to the top. In my own experience, Channel 4, a couple of indie production companies we worked with via Channel 4, I've worked with them across, entertainment formats, documentary formats, and they helped me to grow and they fed back on stuff. And now I do feel an alignment to them, and I do feel like I want to work with them, and I do feel like I owe that to them. And that's how kind of, even though I'm a digital creator who can put a video out any day, anywhere, that's why I got the time of day for them, because they took the time of day for me,
Okay, and Rebecca, maybe kind of thinking about that, if you're a producer or a casting agent and you're working in TV and or you want to work more closely with like digital first talent, how would they go about doing that, apart from maybe ringing you up and asking for your advice? But like, what would that advice sound like?
I think actually what Munya said has been really, so Munya and I have been working together for a long time, and obviously I've seen his development from starting off in the social sphere, where it was very clear that he already had the production capabilities and talents to move over into traditional broadcast. But when the production companies that we've selected to work with, they have taken a really strategic approach in terms of building a team around Munya that was very supportive, that understood his way of working, and also allowing Munya to handpick people that came onto these projects. So having a blended mix of people who have a really solid understanding of what works in the digital space and that traditional understanding as well. And I think that's what's allowed Munya to move so seamlessly between the traditional and the digital spaces. And in terms of actually sort of finding talent, obviously you should be consuming social media and consuming TikTok and understanding who's performing well and who's not, and making yourself a fan of those people yourselves, because ultimately we're all gatekeepers in the industry, and the people who rise to the top are the people that I was a fan of Munya's, and that's why I reached out to him in the first place. So I think everyone who's working in the industry should hold themselves accountable for keeping on top of who's really performing well on social media and enjoying it.
No one medium is better than the other. That's the thing which you have to try and get out of your head. No matter how you came up, it's not the only way, it's not the best way. There are loads of brilliant ways of doing it. And what everyone's talking about really is embracing everybody, however they came to your attention, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, on a TV show, on a reality show, whatever it is. All these jobs are up for grabs. No one deserves them more than anybody else. And that's something which, I mean, if you came up through TikTok or Instagram or whatever, actually, brilliant, well done. Everyone should embrace it. And TV, TV should be the gatekeeper. He didn't come up through the normal ranks. He shouldn't be. That's absolute bollocks. That should not be. I hope that isn't happening anymore. But there's always a lot of snobbery of like, oh yeah, but they're an internet person. Yeah, they've got loads of fans, and also their fans watch television. And also they listen to the radio and they listen to music and they go to gigs and they pay money for comedy shows and stuff. So why would you not embrace all the people? I think that's the like you're talking about gatekeeping. People do like hold close, like this is television. This is different. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. There's loads of people came through TV through loads of different ways throughout history, and it's the same now.
Yeah, and I think also one of those kind of other attributes that we see with people like Munya who've like come through the digital platform is the commitment that it actually takes to like get up every day and think of a new idea and continue like consistently creating and sharing great content. So, Greg, can you give us a bit of your backstory before Radio 1?
Yeah, I'll be quick because it's not that interesting, but I loved it. I always wanted to sort of make things it was either TV presenting, radio presenting, maybe doing comedy or maybe acting, something like that. I knew that I wanted to do some sort of performing or presenting. And I went to university and I'd found hospital radio before as a kid, and I was really embarrassed that I went and did that, and none of my mates knew that I went to the local hospital and did hospital radio shows and stuff. But I just loved it. And then went to university, did drama, found student radio, did a lot of community radio in Norwich, because my ultimate hero is Alan Partridge. We've discussed him earlier. And that was really it. And I just thought, this is the thing. I really love doing this. I love doing a bit, playing some nice songs, and it just being like a really amazing club that you can create, a really nice community of people. And then Radio 1 spotted me through the Student Radio Awards in about 2005. And that was when I was in my first year at university. And then they sort of kept in touch with me and said, well, come back, get better, come back and do a pilot maybe when you leave. And then I went back in when I left, and there was a show. Sarah Cox was ill one day at the weekend, and it was the day of my graduation, and they said, would you like to come and host the weekend afternoon show? I went, yeah, yes, please. And I went back from Norwich and did it, and I missed my graduation, but it was obviously the best thing in the whole world ever. And that was it, and that was a long time ago, and I've just sort of kept going on Radio 1 really, because I've always found, just as I get sick of it, I find something exciting about it. And whether it's a new load of presenters or a new thing that pops up or a pandemic, made it exciting. made doing radio really difficult, and that was sort of a new challenge for me. And that was kind of it. My aim was to actually make sure that I was quite well known outside of Radio 1, because I knew that would, cynically, I knew that would put me in a good position. I think if I didn't have any decent social media stuff, I wouldn't have probably got the breakfast show, actually, because you've got a show that you create things all the time, I suppose, and that you're a part of it and part of a conversation.
Fab. And Rosie, maybe if you can we talked a lot about creators trying to move into like mainstream media or TV or even radio. But when you've got, let's say, more like established talent like Greg, how do you, in your role, kind of support those accounts with their kind of TikTok strategy, so to speak?
Yeah, so we work with talent on a year-round basis, so on their content strategy and to keep up to date with what they've got coming up project-wise. And yeah, at the start of like a big project, we'll sit down with them and their team. Something we did with Greg and his most recent podcast, Tailenders. We sat down and figured out the best way to promote that on TikTok. Yeah, it's all about finding the optimum strategy to reach the people that you want to reach with that content, because obviously every project's different and the people you're trying to reach are different every time. So it's about finding what product features can you be using in your content to connect with the TikTok audience in a way that speaks to them, in a way that feels like authentic and relevant, rather than just potentially your traditional marketing, which might not resonate with them as well.
Fab. And what do you think Greg is doing well on TikTok?
It's like parents' evening.
No pressure.
I know, I'm sat here analysing your content. It's not ideal, is it? So there's two key factors to always think about with your content strategy, and that's TikTok product features and how you can use them alongside community engagement. And I feel like, Greg, you do both of those things really well. So, for example, he's laughing at me. When Greg was promoting Rise and Fall, the Channel 4 reality TV show, we bounced ideas around. One of the things that he did really well was use our green screen effect, which if you think about a weather report, it's like how you insert a photo or a video behind you, and you can then add your commentary to that video. So it's a way to add a visual reference into your content. Again, rather than just like posting a link and saying, watch this on catch up, or posting the clip by itself like you see quite a lot, it adds that context and personality, which for people that have watched the episode that he's referencing the night before, it acts as like bonus content for them, which is really exciting. But also you're putting it in front of people that might not have been aware of the show, or that might not have caught up on last night yet, and they're like, oh yeah, that looks really funny, let me catch up on that. Yeah, and also secondly, the community engagement point. So one thing that we did on the final, ahead of the final, was you did, a live stream Q&A on the day, which was a half-an-hour live stream, which he did via the Channel 4 account, where he just took questions from the audience, shared your opinion, got people really excited. And actually Channel 4 said that as a result of that live, the demographic that they wanted to reach, you saw a massive uplift in doing that. So Channel 4 felt like it was a really powerful tool to use to drive traffic towards that final episode. So yeah, it's about using those product features like Duet, Stitch, or Live Stream, and using them in a way that really connects with the audience you're trying to reach. As I said before, like rather than potentially traditional marketing, which might not connect as well.
And if, let's say, people here are working with talent that maybe want to do more on TikTok, but they haven't got the confidence, or they maybe haven't figured it out yet, what's the best thing for them to do in order to to make that happen?
I think what talent especially find difficult is kind of letting go and accepting that on TikTok, your content doesn't need to be perfect to be successful, especially on TikTok. It's about being authentic and being yourself, and actually that's what's going to do really well, is because people come to TikTok because they want to see the real, they want to see your personality. So I think it's about not overthinking it.
But some people are horrible. That's the problem. Some presenters are horrible people, and they just don't want to be revealed. That's the problem.
Potentially, maybe that's why they're not on
true.
TikTok. So my advice would be just be yourself. And also what works really well on TikTok is when you use it as a platform that's different from all of your other platforms and sharing an interest that maybe people might not have seen elsewhere, like Stanley Tucci and his food videos. We didn't know that about him, and it's absolutely fascinating, and it gets millions of views, and he's built this extra career on the side of his amazing acting, which he's so well known for. So it could be a place where you share the things that you love, and as a result find a new part of your career. So yeah, it's just about testing and having fun, I think.
Fab. Okay, I'm just got one more question for each of you, and then we're going to play a little game, and then we're going to open the floor for Q&A. So if anyone does have any questions they want to ask, have a little think, and then we'll get to that in a sec. The last question for everyone is, what is on your For You page? And we'll start with you, Rebecca, on TikTok. Maybe just one thing or one account that you like.
It's just my videos on repeat.
I only watch Munya's videos on repeat. That's the only thing I consume.
With the exception of Munya.
Ooh.
Tough going first.
I do really like Caleb Presley, who we were talking about before.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my big sort of fan girl.
All right, Fab. Greg?
Real mixture, as you can imagine, all the stuff we have to sift through. A lot of car crashes, a lot of dash cam footage,
Nice.
which I really like. And my new favourite is watching cars go through Fords and see if they get through the other side without getting flooded.
You'd love Fast and Furious, man. You should check it out.
I got a lot of that. There's a lot of. Have you seen those accounts?
No, I haven't, but I need to. But
they're
it sounds
really addictive. They're quite. People just driving as fast as they can through water.
Is it quite satisfying to watch?
Yeah, because they're all pricks, and they all think that they're going to get through it, but the car
and
always
then they
blows
don't,
up,
and then they're in trouble.
And present company accepted. Munya's on my page. I love Alistair Green so much, and also Delaney Rowe. I think is unbearably funny.
Okay.
I don't know if you know Delaney. She's amazingly funny.
Well,
and we'll probably sort of make an acting career out of her TikToks.
Fab.
Because she's just very funny.
Thanks, Greg. Nat?
I wish I had a more interesting one now than car crashes. But no, a lot of mine, because we work with a lot of creators, it's a lot of their content being fed to me as well. So the thing that probably is more personal to me is just like food, anything food related, food talk. Like Grob's Kitchen, who's a lovely creator, he makes like Caribbean cuisine, and I try to make it home really badly, but I always try and recreate any of those that I find on my For You page.
Munya.
So I watch a lot of news on TikTok, but for some reason I keep getting served giant blackhead removals. So that's become my pre-bedtime ritual. I'm not sure if
So that and news?
That and news, yeah.
Okay.
So just the extraction of some huge pile of gunk, which of course
is that satisfying to watch?
It is when it's the Prime Minister being replaced.
It's so hard to look away though, isn't it?
And Rosie.
So mine's a real mixture as well. A book talk, actually. I get a lot of book recommendations, which I love. But also, for some reason, I'm on Tarot Girly TikTok, which I do love, and which is why I keep getting more and more of it. It's endless, actually. Always seems to relate exactly to what your date. It's bizarre. It's mad. But then you see it's got 100,000 likes, and you're like, actually, it's not very unique.
Yeah.
I also get a lot of comedy as well, and I wish I could remember her handle, but the creator I've got in mind, she was actually at Fringe and we couldn't get into her show because it was completely sold out for the full run, but she does these amazing sketches about German mums. I don't know if you've seen. I'll have to find the handle, but she is, hilarious. So a real mixture.
Okay, fab. Cool. So our last section is actually a feature that we've lifted direct from Greg's breakfast show. It's called Yesterday's Quiz. I don't know if anyone in the audience listens to Greg in the morning, but 7:15, it's always a highlight of the first hour of my day. So we thought, Greg, we might play Yesterday's Quiz with you. That's all right.
Great.
Questions actually from yesterday and the day before.
Okay, well,
so Saturday. Yeah,
you've
we
already
kind of
ruined-
bent the
ruined the
rules a
format.
little bit there. Anyone else up for it? Munya, you fancy it? Yeah? Okay, so we're going to probably do 4 questions each. It's about stuff that's been on the TV yesterday or maybe kind of Saturday. So, Greg, Inside the Factory aired on Yesterday channel at 3 p.m., but which famous Greg presents it?
Greg Wallace.
Straight.
One of the
straight
great TV shows. Genuinely. One of the great TV shows.
There's not enough Gregs on TV. I keep saying this. We need to improve the diversity of Gregs on television, people. Come on.
Greg, do we have time to get into why you're such a big fan of Greg Wallace?
Just, he's instantly funny. He's just a funny, just looks like an egg in glasses, is really fun, says funny things, walks around factories in a hairnet, just saying wow. It's just fun. It's just funny.
Yeah.
He's just a funny man.
Fab.
So I've just become obsessed with him, and we call him up quite regularly on the show, just live, just to see what he says.
Fab. Munya. Yeah. The film Moulin Rouge was on BBC Two yesterday. In which city would you find the Moulin Rouge?
In Paris?
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, Greg, which celebrity dancing show returned to TV last night and the night before?
Strictly Come Dancing.
Okay.
Did you see Angela Rippon's leg by any chance? Did you see the leg? When you get out of here, get on TikTok.
Look for the leg.
Look for Angela Rippon's leg high kick.
Okay, Munya, England played Chile in the Rugby World Cup. This was also on Saturday. Yeah. But who was the England captain in that game?
I don't even know. David Beckham or something.
That was Owen Farrell, unfortunately.
You might have had a lane
Greg,
change.
The Big Bang Theory was on E4 yesterday at 7 p.m. But which US state is it set in?
Oh, I hate that show. New York?
California.
Oh.
Munya, a replay of Sherlock was on the Drama Channel. But
Yeah,
which street did Sherlock Holmes live on?
What street?
Yeah. In London.
Maybe Portobello Road before it was gentrified.
Sorry, mate. It's Baker Street.
Oh, well, if we're
Greg,
not laughing, we're learning, aren't we?
Greg, I think you might be able to... Well, we'll see how this one goes. Coyote Ugly was on TV yesterday. What noise does a coyote make?
Wow. That would be a surprise, coyote.
What do we think? Yes, you reckon? Yeah, we'll give him that. Yeah, that's good.
Well, Ed, what's the answer?
It's like... kind of like a wolf, but a bit more high pitched.
Faster.
Yeah.
We've entered the high concept part of this panel now, ladies and gentlemen.
Very highbrow stuff. Okay.
the Royal Television Society is serious.
Munya, last question.
Yeah.
The 1961 classic West Side Story was on BBC Two. Where was it set?
San Diego.
It's actually New York. So, Greg, you are our winner of yesterday's/Saturday's quiz.
Thank you very much. What an honour.
Okay, fab. Let's do some Q&A from the room.
Brilliant. Andrew Eborn, Octopus TV, a fascinating insight into TikTok and the lack of knowledge about what happened yesterday. Two questions. One is, what is the commercial side of TikTok? So when you're presenting, how much do you get? And secondly, the online safety bill has just come in, which is going to revolutionize people's responsibility about these big platforms. To what extent is that going to change how TikTok operates and the various contributors?
Yeah, you do the serious one after doing a coyote noise.
So I think the online safety bill, I can't really speak to that from like a legal perspective because it's not really my area. But we've just announced kind of like all the key details around like our approach and response to the online safety bill on our TikTok newsroom. So not to completely cop out of the question, but that goes into all the details as to how we're compliant with the online safety bill. And of course, it's absolutely crucial for us as a platform with millions of users that we put trust and safety at like the heart of everything we do. So it's a big focus, but unfortunately it's not my focus, so I can't give you all the details, I'm afraid. And then I guess the other question was, what's like the commercial model around TikTok? Maybe I can touch about how we just maybe split that question in two about how we operate as a platform. So TikTok as a business is built on ad revenue. So between the videos, we sell advertising space to different businesses. And then I don't know if Greg or Munya want to talk about how you guys make money, but
I was
that's
just
kind
going
of
to
up to you.
say, I have not yet monetized my TikTok content, but I use it more as a tool to, put my stuff out there, and then brands are able to see that and go, oh, he'd be great for the next Adidas campaign, or he'd be great for this. So it's more of like a catalyst to the brands I'd like to work with. But I know that you can monetize your content, and now that if you do more than a minute, you can monetize. So I'd like to think in future, I have a production company, and maybe we will start to make long form, which we can then put on there.
Nat, did you want to touch on any other kind of ways that creators are monetizing TikTok?
Yeah, from a creator's perspective, there's so many ways you can make money. So through those presenting opportunities, as you do on TV, but there's also all of these monetization tools we have in apps. So we have like series where you can produce content that has a paywall on it, so people have to pay. We also have the Creator Fund and the Creativity Fund. It's both where you can gain money just from people viewing your content. Which is a really good one if you just want to post anything that you usually do and get extra cash in your pocket. But there's also, we have TikTok Creator Marketplace, where our brands and creators are basically paired up together for the best sort of ads that they want to do. But a lot of what we see is through brand partnership from a creator's perspective. So they make their most money from, like, as you said, like Adidas campaigns, or maybe like the next Greg TV series broadcast promotion tool.
Similar to Munya, really. I mean, Rosie checked earlier, and I've made £4 from from a live that I'd done once, which I'm not going to claim. I'm going to put that back in the fund. You guys need a bit of cash.
That's probably live gifting as well. You
Yeah,
can gift through live, so people liked you enough to gift.
£4 worth. That's my rate. But I think similar to Munya, it's all I've always seen social media stuff, because I've been lucky enough to have a daily radio show, which is my main platform. That it's been sort of marketing tool, but also it's evolved really nicely into it generates content for the show, either specific stuff, or we pick some amazing bits that we find. So yeah, really we use it as a tool to push all the fun stuff that we do out there.
Yeah, all your other kind of major projects.
Yeah.
Cool. Next question.
Hi there. I just wanted to ask about Greg and Munya, just about the time commitments you put into creating content.
I think it's quite, you can be, well, in my experience, I can be quite malleable in the sense that if I'm working on, for example, last year we worked on the documentary, I was out for quite a while, and realistically, at the start, that's when I really focused on like a really relentless consistency just to really get myself out there. And then obviously you build enough of a platform where you can alter your supply-demand formula to kind of keep people interested. The same you was, obviously, you had the Traitors on BBC One, which they didn't then the next week release Traitors 2. You can build the anticipation for the next one. So it varies from creator to creator. As Greg mentioned, it's a marketing tool. It's how you drive momentum to other projects. But I'd say basically you can basically alter the value of your brand based on your supply of your content. So it all depends on your bigger structure. And Rebecca and I this year said, look, I've got my stand-up tour happening in October, and so it's okay for me to step back a little bit in order to create this tour and build the mystique around that, which then pushes people to want to go there because of the decreased accessibility online. So there's formulaic ways you can alter that.
I probably need to be a bit more strategic because I'm on every day. I never stop, and the content never stops, and the algorithm always wants more. So I do find that quite difficult. I wish I had more time to put all the fun stuff that we do on the show into a version for TikTok, but that's unrealistic because I want to have a life. I really value my marriage, and I really like my friends. But ideally, it would be nice to package up some of the bits we do, because I think there's some really easy wins that could just propel it. So it's an ongoing, it's just time management, and I would love to do more stuff on it, but it does consume a lot of your time. But I do it up. I've sort of got quite good at it now, I think, in terms of my life, because you do it when you're enjoying it, and when I stop enjoying it and I overthink it and I go, I must do that, it's like, actually just leave it. It's fine. You'll be fine. You won't die. So yeah, I think that I've got a good handle on it now. I mean, I should be doing TikToks now. I shouldn't be wasting my fucking time here.
Who's next? Maybe Damien here.
Hello.
Hi, presenters.
We'll go down the front.
Okay.
As you started.
All right, I'll be quick. Presenters, are you ever worried about competition? How do you measure your success? And talent directors, do you actively look for talent, and where and how?
Sounds like a bit of a riddle, that. Well, look, maybe this is more anecdotal as opposed to sort of something that can be applied equally, but in my, competition as a creator is something that you do think about. You go through phases where you feel envious and whatnot. I think ultimately there are just too many extraneous variables for you to want to be comparable to the next creator. There's too many. What's great about a platform like TikTok is, and I always use this analogy, if I said to you, what's your favorite crisp, yeah? And you said to me, I love ready salted. And I said to you, right, well, I'm going to eliminate every other flavor of crisp then. Now you're going to be happy. You'd be like, well, no, because I like having others sometimes. That's the way a platform like TikTok works. We all have our favorites, but there are people that we like to divert to. And as a creator, your job is just to create that content for when they're in the mood for something different.
Yeah, space for everyone, I think, is something that I think about a lot, and actually encouraging people and featuring certain people on The Breakfast Show helps both things, and actually collaboration is sort of why anyone gets into any creative job, and that's why I loved radio stuff, is because you're collaborating with a friend on a student radio show or a listener on a radio show now that I do. The collaborative element of it is what I really love. So if you're open to stuff, obviously you're going to compare yourself to certain things. You're a human, but it's a waste of time, and it really stops you from actually being good at your thing if you're worried about what everyone else is doing. But it's also really important to see what everyone else is doing. And I see stuff that Munya's done, and obviously everyone sees it and goes, fucking hell, that's amazing. But that does help you get better. That you need people around you to push things. You need better radio presenters around you to be like, okay, be better. Otherwise, they're going to get that show. That is what a creative job is about. And that's, if you don't like that, then it's maybe not the right thing for you. But I thrive off that. I quite like being pushed and challenged. So, yeah.
Within the arena of TV, just to make it slightly more, applicable, I think it's really good to look out for original formats on TikTok, which you may accidentally find through the nicheness of the creators. So, for example, dating formats, there's this whole chat at the moment of what hasn't been done in the sphere of dating. I think on maybe April Fool's Day, Duolingo has a TikTok account, and they put out a mock trailer for a dating show in which every contestant speaks a different language. And then they turned around and they were like, oh, it was just a joke. And I was like, if I was a producer right now, I'd be making that show, because that is brilliant. Yeah. So in terms of searching for niches and then going, well, could you make a show off the back of that? I feel like that's a goldmine.
Yeah, that's a bit how we look for talent as well. So we work with studios and broadcasters on specific titles, and the way we look for those creators is based on the niches and what the conversation is around their audience. So we look at hashtags specifically, or just any video that's going viral, creating conversation in app around that specific title, really.
Fab.
What about the others? Do you look at TikTok and all of that social media, the talent directors there?
Can I borrow your mic? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't have a mic. A big part of my area of interest is new talent. And so I often am looking for my area of interest would be multi-hyphenate creatives who I think have the ability to translate across multiple platforms. So often that will involve me obviously finding people that I really enjoy watching their content on social media. You might see that then they're featured in a piece of press, or perhaps they pop up in conversation with a colleague or industry. And I think often I'll notice that that person is sort of shifting into the zeitgeist, or they've picked up on something, because they'll keep popping up in multiple spheres or verticals, and then that will be the type of person that I would be interested to reach out to.
Fab. Does that answer your question? Fab. Okay. Maybe we'll go to this side of the room.
Hi. I was going to ask, first of all, how often do you all think about the Roman Empire? And also kind of more broadly about something like that, like something that trends. What do you make of trends like that seem to happen quite organically, that maybe don't use trending sounds or products on the platform? Is that replicable? Can you find those trends or create them, or is it just a case of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks?
So should we start with the Roman Empire question? Munya?
I've never even thought about it in my life. I never even understood the trend. I didn't even know what... I played Age of Empires, where I got to build pyramids and stuff, but that was it. In terms of trends, look, if you go about trying to create trends, I think it's a futile mission, because, like you said, it happens organically. I think it's one of those things where, in TV, you're more looking for patterns, because, obviously with everyone pushing towards digital, if something pops off, then it's a question of, shall we make a TV show about that or whatever? I think it's... Trends come and go so quickly now. I think there's even a study showing how quickly things die off on Twitter now in terms of trending topics and stuff. So I guess it's more so looking for patterns that emerge across certain verticals like dating or food or whatnot. Like there's a propensity towards like more personality-driven cooking shows at the moment. So you've got Big Zoo, who's got his BAFTA-winning show, and then there's a girl called Poppy who does only potato recipes, and people love that. So I guess it's kind of like jumping on those verticals and then trying to capitalize on the broader trend of an area as opposed to a video.
I think about it whenever I see straight roads. Is the truth. Or when I go to Bath and there's a Roman baths. I think that's probably about it. Or when I go to Rome. Okay? And the trends thing, Munya's spot on about trying to create a thing is often quite embarrassing when you're trying to get a trend off the ground. The beauty of a moment, of a zeitgeisty moment, is that it just happens, and it's not orchestrated. That's why people like it. But the trends drop off. Where's Binley Mega Chippy right now? It was the only thing we talked about for a week, maybe a month. People were like queuing up outside. So we try and, my job every day is to try and work out what's my take on the trend, or what's my take on the day. And that's sort of how we deal with them. And we deal with them with the disdain that they treat us. They appear and then they go, truthfully.
Fab. Great question. Maybe if we can go down the front just here.
No, you're fine.
Thank you. My question's mainly for Rebecca, but also would like Munya and Greg's input. So my name's Saskia. I'm actually a presenter at TikTok, but I also do a lot of freelance. So my niche or USP would technically be being a social presenter. So it kind of goes back to what Munya was saying about how there isn't really right now an interim between combining digital and broadcast. So predominantly my showreel is stuff that I've done at TikTok, which always kind of stands out. But then when you send it to TV companies, they're like, she's not kind of got broadcast apart from when I did internships at uni. And then when you do send it to like other social places, they're like, well, she's only got 50,000 followers and we've got other people with 3 million on our books. So I'm kind of in that like interim. So my question would be, you were saying you love new talent. I've literally just signed to a talent agency. So what would your advice be to try and get into a new talent, into that, their foot fully through the door, if you would? Because I've literally like contacted production companies. Like I'm not sure if many people watch The Traitors, but I watched it 3 times back to back, was obsessed with it. And I found when I watched it, it was kind of like the weakest link where like they were like, right, you're out, and then you never heard from them again. And I was literally like watching it being like, I want the gossip. I want to know who was the biggest dick. I want to know who thought this, like who did you think it was? And you couldn't really have that. So like I literally pitched it to the production company. I was like, I'm a social presenter. Like this is what you should do. You should have like a podcast, get them on it. I'm literally doing like the Davina McCall where she was like, I want a Love Island with my mum and dad. And now that's literally happening on ITV. So like what would your advice be to try and get that foot fully through the door for your new talent?
Good question. I think one of the main things when you're first starting to think about your strategy and moving over to broadcast is to think about the types of shows that you would like to work with and be on, which obviously sounds like you have, and then sort of build a plan to get you there. So actually, if you're building a good profile within TikTok and you're growing an audience there, brand work can be a really good tool to build out your portfolio. A lot of brands now are trying to make entertainment first content. So I think we did that a lot with Munya at the beginning, but building out a really nice slate of branded content that shows your abilities as a presenter and as a creative, that then becomes some of the material that you can use for broadcasters. And I also think there are a lot of production companies out there who are really engaged with new talent and do have a real passion and interest for supporting them. So I think work with your agent and work with your peers in the industry to find out who those production companies are, make a shortlist and go out and meet with them. And I think it's about finding your champion along each step of the way. So your agent will be your biggest champion. And then within the production sphere, you'll find those production partners that really believe in you and see something special in what you do. And then when you move to the next level, meet with the commissioners with your agent, and again you'll find that champion at that particular broadcaster, and those will be the people that help you move forward and also mean that the projects that you work on feel really authentic to you. And just make sure that you sort of remain authentic in the work that you're doing and keep your own tone of voice.
100% agree. What was your name, sorry? Saskia. So yeah, I can obviously echo what Rebecca said. Rebecca found me super early on, and also one thing I remember from our encounter was, and something that's very apt today, is that I don't necessarily know if production companies or channels are looking for a presenter. I think they're looking for a presenter who does XXX. So for example, maybe you are someone who's got like a slightly satirical edge to the way you present. Maybe you're a food specialist. Maybe you're an absolute history buff and that's your thing. I think having something that just flavors a bit more of a palette almost, or something that just textures you more so, because what you know, if you want to find someone who can say the words out loud, you're competing against hundreds of thousands. Whereas if you've got that slight differentiation to your personality or your interests, already it's super alluring, because production companies are making shows with a particular interest in mind, and so then it just becomes a case of, can you find each other?
The other thing, 2 things I'll add is make sure you're enjoying all the things you're doing now, because this is it, and because there's no place to get to. You might think, when I get my ITV show, I'll be happy. You won't be. You've got to make sure you might be rich, like Paddy McGuinness, but you won't necessarily. That's not necessarily what should be driving you. I think it should be, I'm really enjoying this. I really like working with these people. I found a really fun camera operator. I found a really amazing producer. Let's just make a thing. So that's the key thing, is that speaking personally, I really enjoyed not being on Radio 1. Because I was like, oh, that'd be fun. But if it doesn't happen, that's not the end of the world, because it might be something else. I might do something else. That's fine. So just be open-minded with it. And I've forgotten the second thing. So that's the end of my answer. But yeah, it was mainly enjoy the process of doing all these jobs and getting better. That was it. Getting better at it. But remember, there's so much time. TikTok is brilliant in many ways, but it's just you're just going, oh, next thing, next thing, and you think these people are famous. They took an hour to be famous, and that's it. And I've lost my chance, and that's the end, and I'm going to die unhappy. That's not how it works. Munya had spent years doing his thing. I've been on Radio 1 for 16 years. It took me 12 years to get The Breakfast Show. And there were moments along that way where I was like, it's never going to happen. This is taking ages, but it's so much better for waiting and working out who you are, working out what your thing is. So take your time and enjoy all the bits along the way, because that's the fun bit. It's supposed to be it's all fun, you know? They're not real jobs.
There was a question right at the back on the right-hand side. I don't know if anyone saw it. All right.
Can I ask a question about the role of children's content? I mean, a lot of it seems to be, there's a lot of quite appealing stuff on there, and yet children, obviously there's an age limit to get on. What are your views on that as a company, and what are your views on what works?
Well,
content.
I guess probably the first and most important thing to say is TikTok is 13 plus. And for users between the ages of 13 to 18, they'll have like quite a restricted experience, so that we kind of quite heavily moderate the content that they'll be served to make sure it's all age appropriate. But then I'd say kind of beyond that, content that is maybe interesting for children might also perform really well with adults. So I think a great example of that is the BBC show Bluey, which performs like incredibly well on TikTok and is actually popular with loads of adults who maybe even don't even have children, but just like love the narratives and the storytelling behind that. So yeah, I think that's kind of certainly my observation on like children's TV. But because we don't serve users under the age of 13, children's TV isn't something that we would like proactively try and like encourage to use or create on the platform. Should we go last one at the back? Okay, yeah, sure. If we're quick,
we'll get to bed.
I have a quick question.
Jesus Christ.
So for pitching ideas and stuff, do you think that the trending, like the trend way of doing it or traditional way of doing it has changed? Because I've been working on a digital show for 3 years, and I approached it very much, I'm a new talent, this is what I've got, this is what I've created. And nobody, obviously unsolicited, would respond to me. And then having changed the sort of pitch into this is my talent attached to it, this is what I've got, even though it's a talent-led show, I had every single meeting that I then wrote, all the production companies I wrote to, I then got a meeting with. So I'm just intrigued to know, and now it's in development, I'm just intrigued to know really if you think there's been a change in what commissioners or what production companies have been looking for. And I know you have your own production company as well, so I'm just intrigued if people come to you and what your preference is, if you've noticed any change in trend.
I think there's certainly a draw towards big talent, big numbers equals big viewing figures. And so, I do think that if you attach the pop-in, online personality at the time to a deck, people are going to fall over themselves for it. But with that being said, return back to what I said earlier about if you want the show to sustain itself across several series or whatnot, to enter into the award shows and all this kind of stuff, you need pretty much someone who's not just turning up to get paid and leave. You need someone who's invested from development onwards, who's going to try and be there as a producer on the ground, who wants to sit in the edit, and edit produce. We had a show 2 years ago called Race Around Britain, which was a YouTube show. It was an idea I had. I pitched it to YouTube, and we made it with my company. And I used my TV expertise there, and I sat in the meetings and in the edit production. And we were the first YouTube to ever be nominated for a BAFTA alongside Graham Norton, Mo Gilligan, and Ramesh, just because we had good practices and obviously the draw of my numbers. So I do believe that you should be seeking people with profile, but also with a sincere dedication to the craft, and that will get you the draw that you need, but also the execution to get the end result you want.
Great. Do we have one last one?
Back right, surely. Oh,
yeah.
I just have a question. So I currently run the Sky History and Crime Investigation TikTok, and our style of content is quite, it's got snippets of our shows, so it's not very TikTok-owned content. So my question would be, what is your advice for broadcast channels to move away from showing snippets of their shows and having more TikTok-owned content? Would it be to get a presenter to, I don't know, do some news on there, or how can we switch from just showing snippets of our show, basically?
Yeah, I think maybe I can jump in here. Thanks for the question. I think it's difficult to find a balance between kind of like the formats that you're using on your brand account, and actually, I think the most important thing to focus on is kind of like the feedback that you get maybe in the comments or like on the actual metrics of the the videos. So whilst it's always great to see like original content and maybe like presenter-led content, if you're actually finding that clips of the show perform really, really well, then absolutely use them if you can. Because really what you want to do is use that attention to shine a focus on your show, because I think that's probably one of the things that's most likely to drive users to go on and either like stream or watch the show. So I wouldn't be too afraid of using clips. We see, some of the biggest media brands in the UK and also around the world using that content, but I think it's really important to do that in a kind of a creative way, and where possible, experiment with maybe those other formats as well if you can. Did that answer the question? Yeah, is that good? Yeah, fab. Okay, I think we're more or less there. I just want to say a few really big thank yous. So, a big thanks to our panel today. So to Rosie, to Munya, to Nat, to Greg, and to Rebecca. Can we have just a big round of applause for them? Yeah, I think some like amazing insight, and I know that I personally feel, I'm sure Rosie and Nat do, working in this space, like really lucky to be surrounded by such amazing talent, and also to play a role in the future of the entertainment industry. And obviously, it's so great to have Rebecca and also Munya and Greg who are showing us how it's done. So brilliant to hear from you all today. Just a couple of other plugs here. So please also check out all the upcoming events from the RTS. You can do that at rts.org.uk. And whilst you're at it, also subscribe to the television podcast from RTS London. If you do want to talk about any kind of TikTok-related projects, feel free to grab myself, Rosie, or Nat. After this session, we'll be kind of milling around for the next half an hour or so. Thanks so much, guys, and have a safe journey home and a great evening, everyone.